I never imagined that speaking up within my own family would one day cost me peace. Growing up in a large household meant you learned to live with noise, chaos, and people you didn't always understand. My mother had remarried after my father passed away, and with that came new faces, new names, one of which was Arif, my step-uncle. He wasn't much older than me, which made it harder to view him as an elder. Arif was quiet, observant, and always lingered longer than necessary in conversations. But it wasn't until I noticed his growing interest in my cousin Sana that unease began to settle in my chest. Sana and I had grown up like siblings. Our bond wasn't romantic, it was protective. She was sweet, trusting, and never saw the shadows behind people's smiles. I, on the other hand, noticed everything. The first sign came during a family barbecue on a Saturday evening. Everyone was gathered in the backyard, the scent of grilled meat mixing with the summer breeze. Arif sat across from Sana, asking her questions about her university, her favorite books, even the colors she liked wearing most. At first, it seemed harmless, but then I saw the way his eyes scanned her when she looked away, like he was memorizing her. I brushed it off. Maybe I was overthinking things. But it didn't stop. Over the next few weeks, I saw more. Arif always volunteering to help her carry things, offering her rides she never asked for, and showing up wherever she happened to be. His presence, once quiet and in the background, had started to feel calculated. I tried to ask myself, was I being too protective? Was I misreading a friendly gesture as something more sinister? But every time I watched Sana smile politely at him, unaware of the intensity in his gaze, I felt a knot tighten inside me. One evening, I caught him standing outside the hallway near Sana's room. He claimed he was just passing by, but the hallway led nowhere except her door. That night, I couldn't sleep. Still, I didn't say anything. I kept convincing myself that families don't accuse each other, that maybe I needed more proof. But deep down, I knew Arif was crossing lines he had no right to. And if he wasn't going to stop, then maybe I had to be the one to make him. It was during my cousin Hiba's wedding week that things shifted from unsettling to unacceptable. Weddings in our family were grand affairs, colorful, crowded, and filled with laughter that echoed through every corner of the house. Sana looked radiant in her light green dress, her bangles clinking with every movement. As usual, Arif hovered nearby. At first, he blended in, cracking jokes, helping set up decorations. But his attention remained fixed on Sana, as if the celebration was merely background noise. During the Mendi night, the guests formed a circle for traditional dancing. Someone pulled Sana in, and she shyly joined. Moments later, Arif followed uninvited. He reached for her hand mid-spin and held it just a second too long. Sana laughed nervously, her eyes searching the crowd until they met mine. That look said everything. After the event, I found her alone near the kitchen, her smile gone. "I don't want to make a scene," she said softly. "But he makes me uncomfortable. I don't know how to explain it." Her words were enough. I found Arif the next morning on the front porch, sipping tea like he hadn't done anything unusual. I walked up, keeping my voice calm but firm. "You need to stop." He looked up, feigning confusion. "Stop what?" "Stop hovering around Sana. Stop making her feel unsafe." He laughed. "She's like a niece to me. Don't be dramatic." "Then treat her like one," I said, stepping closer. "Because I see how you look at her. And if I see it again, I won't stay silent." Arif's smile faltered. "You're young. You don't understand how things are." "No," I replied coldly. "I understand boundaries. You don't." He stood up, brushing past me, muttering something about respect. I didn't care. My message had been delivered. Later that evening, I told my mother. She gave me a tired sigh and a skeptical glance. "Arif has always been a little too friendly, but that doesn't make him dangerous," she said. "Don't accuse family without proof." That's when I realized how alone Sana and I were in this. I found Sana in her room that night, quiet, curled up on the floor beside her bed, phone in hand. "Did you say something?" she whispered. I nodded. "Yes." I warned him. "And I'll do it again if I have to." Her eyes welled up, not with fear, but with relief. We were the only ones who saw it clearly, and that meant we'd have to stand together, even if no one else would. It happened on a rainy Thursday night, quiet, heavy, the kind of night that muffles noise and magnifies dread. I was halfway through a book when my phone vibrated. It was a message from Sanaa. "Are you awake?" Seconds later, another one came through. He just tried to come into my room. My chest tightened. I called her immediately. Her voice shook, barely a whisper. He knocked, said he needed help with something downstairs. But it was almost midnight. Why would he even? Her voice cracked. I didn't open the door. That was all I needed to hear. I threw on a jacket and marched across the hallway to Arif's room, fists clenched. But when I reached his door, he wasn't there. The lights were off.
Calm.
Quiet. I returned to Sanaa's room and stood guard outside for most of the night, heart pounding, mind racing. By morning, I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. I told my mother again, this time with no room for ambiguity. He tried to enter her room. Late at night. "How much more do you need to believe me?" But her face remained conflicted, her voice low. "You don't know the damage this kind of accusation can cause." "I know the damage it's already causing," I snapped. To Sanaa. Word traveled fast. Within a day, the family gathered in the living room as if assembling a jury for an unspoken trial. Arif sat quietly, arms folded, a false calm on his face. Sanaa stood beside me, eyes downcast, hands trembling. When we explained what happened, Arif interrupted with practiced indignation. She misunderstood. I was just looking for the bathroom light switch. Why would I ever? She's like a daughter. Some nodded. Some hesitated. My uncle even laughed nervously, muttering, "This is all blown out of proportion." That laughter burned in my ears. But the worst part? No one stood up for Sanaa. Not a single person. She left the room halfway through, unable to bear their disbelief. I followed her outside, where she sat on the stone bench, silent, staring at nothing. "I should have kept quiet," she said bitterly. "They think I'm making this up." "You're not," I told her firmly. "And even if the whole family refuses to see it, I do. I always will." That night, something between us shifted. Not into romance, not yet, but into something deeper. Trust forged through pain, loyalty no accusation could break. She rested her head on my shoulder, and we sat there in silence as the wind rustled through the trees, carrying the weight of words we hadn't yet spoken. The next few days were a blur of awkward silences and stolen glances. The house, once noisy with chatter and laughter, now pulsed with tension. Sanaa kept to her room. Arif walked around as if nothing had happened, even offering fake smiles to the very people he knew doubted him. I couldn't let it stand. If the family wouldn't believe words, then maybe they'd believe evidence. I installed a voice recorder near the hallway outside Sanaa's room. I had no idea if it would capture anything, but deep down I knew Arif wasn't finished. 3 nights later, the device proved me right. In the early hours, I retrieved the recorder and played back the audio. There it was, his voice low and deliberate, coaxing. "Sanaa, don't be afraid. Just open the door. I just want to talk. You don't have to tell anyone." My blood boiled. It wasn't just confirmation. It was intent. I didn't wait. That evening, I gathered the family in the living room again. This time, I brought my phone and connected it to the speakers. When Arif's voice echoed through the room, the silence was deafening. My uncle's faces turned pale. My mother covered her mouth. Arif stood frozen, caught between denial and panic. "I told you," I said, calm but resolute. "You wanted proof. This is it." Arif tried to stammer something about editing, fabrication, but no one listened. The illusion had shattered. Within hours, he was told to leave. Not just the house, but the family. Permanently. For the first time in weeks, Sanaa breathed freely. The color slowly returned to her face. She began eating with the family again, smiling when spoken to, even making small jokes like she used to. The change was subtle but powerful. She was reclaiming herself. One evening, as we sat on the rooftop under the stars, she turned to me and said, You believed me when no one else did.
You stood by me.
I'll never forget that. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized that our bond had become something sacred. Not rushed, not romantic in the typical sense, but built on something far deeper. Safety, trust, and unspoken care. I didn't do it because I had to, I told her. I did it because no one should ever feel afraid in their own home. She smiled then, eyes glistening. That night, I realized something simple yet powerful. Sometimes love doesn't begin with fireworks. Sometimes it begins with protection. And sometimes, standing up for someone is the truest form of love.